I knew from an early age that I was different.
I'm that awful thing that I hear people talk about in hushed voices.
I knew I was gay and I wanted to be straight. I promised myself when I was a little kid that I would never come out.
We know where we can hold hands or where we can't, and just kind of deal with it.
I will never see marriage in my lifetime. Thought I would never see it in my lifetime.
On November 2nd, 2004, the Utah state government passed Amendment 3 to the state's constitution, for the first time defining marriage as only between a man and a woman, thus making gay marriage illegal in Utah. It took 9 years for a federal judge, Robert J. Shelby, to strike it down as unconstitutional on December 20th, 2013.
I remember being at work, and I remember one of my coworkers coming out of the break room, and he just very nonchalantly was like, "Oh, gay marriage is legal in Utah now, high five." And like, I was like, "What?"
I'd just woken up and I was in a group message with a bunch of my friends, and someone had just mentioned that they ruled it unconstitutional, so.
Were you at work or were you asleep?
I was at work.
You were at work. Okay, so we were both at work, and I heard it first, and I think I texted you and said, "Let's go get married."
I got a text from a friend of mine who's an attorney. He does, it doesn't matter what he does. He's an attorney, and he sent me a text and he said, "Run, don't walk, to the county clerk's office and get married." And I thought, I just was shocked and stunned.
So I ran into the break room, and it was on TV on the news, and I just remember like what's going on? Like, is this really happening? And like, I remember texting him, and just like, "Did you just see this on the news?" And it was just like the biggest thing. And then I heard, like, on Facebook, a lot of people were talking about it, just how people were rushing to the courthouses and stuff to try to get married, because obviously at the time we didn't know how long people had, but it was just a very emotional time. I remember I got choked up because I was like, this is happening.
It was an amazing feeling. I thought he was joking for a while, but I looked it up and it was crazy. Everyone was freaking out on Facebook, you know. I called my mom right away. She started bawling.
They said, they're letting us get married, let's go. And neither of us could get off work and run down there in time. So it was so exciting. In my office, there were quite a few of us that were just so excited, and everyone was just amazed and, "What? I can't believe this."
I don't know who I heard say this. Somebody said that like the air in Utah kind of felt different that day. And I remember walking outside of work, and it did. It just had this different atmosphere, like, wow, you know, like, because I love Utah. Utah's my home. I've lived here my whole life, and I plan on staying in Utah. And just being able to walk outside and be like, okay, like, something I thought would never happen in the place that I love to live, like, I'm being recognized, that the possibility of me having a marriage is real now. It was just completely surreal.
When you think of Utah, you never think of like that marriage equality was going to come here.
It was like a strange Christmas present out of nowhere, and I didn't really quite believe it was true. I did not understand properly the sense of urgency, because I did not think, oh, there will be looming over us a court stay that could come at any moment. So when my friend said, walk, don't run, I mean, run, don't walk, down to the court, get married, I didn't properly understand that for about 12 hours. And when I did, then I could think of nothing but, I have to get this done, and I have to get there, and I have to get there before there's a stay, and whatever it takes.
I had to be at work. I was working overnighters, and I had to be at work Sunday night. And Angie's like, let's go Monday morning. Let's go Monday morning. And I was like, okay.
And so Sunday night, I went down. I just had this inkling. What if there's a gigantic line, and we know we're racing against the clock in case there is a stay? So we went down to the 21st South at about 7 or 8 at night after a family party. And there were people lining up. There was a person and they were going to stay all night. And I thought, I cannot possibly stay out here in this. It was very cold. Can't possibly stay out here in this cold. But I should stay out here in this cold. So what am I going to do? So I tried to bribe the people on the line. I tried to give them $50 to hold a space for me. I'm not proud of this. They said they could not possibly do that. So we thought, well, all right, we'll get up at 3 and go down.
There's a line of people, probably about 100 people. You know, it was cold. It wasn't snowing, at least. It was cold. Everybody was bundled up. Felt like Black Friday. Everybody was just lining up.
Felt like Black Friday.
The group had sort of organized itself. They were handing out numbers. So they handed us a number that said 47.
And we were couple number 99 in line.
So when we were online waiting to get in, the overall atmosphere was interesting because it was both just tense excitement. People couldn't believe that they were there. There were so many people ultimately that were online, but it was all coupled with, will we make it?
My fear was we were going to get up there. We were standing in line for hours, and we were going to get turned away because the stay would come down at any second, any minute, you know, when the courts opened at 9 o'clock. So it was, is this really going to happen or is it not? Is it going to happen? Is it not? So it was really toying with us, and we were just like, you know, in the back of our mind, this isn't going to happen again. You know, Utah's going to stop it.
I was standing by somebody who was an attorney. The people online that were behind me, one of them was an attorney. And she just said, oh, we've got to make it before 9:30. We've got to make it before 9:30. There's going to be a stay. There's going to be a stay. So there was, can we possibly get through in time? Will this happen? Will we be turned away in terrible disappointment? It was all, but it was still, there was like kind of a quiet orderliness about it.
And 9 o'clock came around, and everybody's really getting anxious, and everybody's, you know, searching their phones for any word of the hearing. And then it was like 9:12, it came down to this stay was not being issued. So then it was real. It was like, oh my gosh. It was cool. Everybody was elated, and then the energy just amped up even more, you know.
I think we were married by 10:30. And then it went on all day. I couldn't believe how it felt when we did get married, because I felt a lightness of being, an overall lightness. It was sort of felt like out of body.
It was really neat. The energy was unreal. You know, I never thought I'd be sharing my wedding day with thousands of couples.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want it any other way now, because you got to know these people as you're standing in line for hours and hearing everyone's stories and how long they'd been together, and it's just really, it was a neat way to do it.
The amazing feeling of getting your paper, people would go out and hold it up, getting your paper, going out, and then going downstairs where there were tons of officiants there to provide marriages.
People would stand and cheer for the next couple coming out. As each couple went and signed their license, you know, everyone would cheer as they came out. And I had one of a bride that had finished handed me her bouquet as I came out, and then so after doing the license, they sent us all down into the courtyard to do our ceremonies, and it was so neat. There were violins playing. There were just couples everywhere doing their vows and celebrating.
You take Angie to be your lawfully wedded partner in life, to have and to hold, for better for worse, through rich or through poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish to the end of eternity. You, Angie, take thee to be your lawfully wedded partner in life, to have and to hold, for better for worse, through rich or through poor, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till the end of eternity. The powers vested in me by the state of Utah, I now pronounce you lawfully wedded partners in life. You make this a Sorry, I bumped you.
I don't think I've ever been in any situation like that in my life, with that sense of cooperation, with a little bit of an overhang of terror and fear that this is not going to come through, but cooperation and mutual love, respect. We hope this is good for everybody. That's what it felt like to me.
17 days after Judge Shelby's ruling, the Utah state government sent an appeal to the 10th Circuit Court, putting a stay in place that halted gay marriages immediately. This left the many couples who were married in that time with the uncertainty of how the state would recognize their marriages.
After the stay got put into place, it really was this kind of feeling of like, well, what's going to happen now? Like all this celebration, all this, all these people getting married, like was that just going to go away?
I thought the stay was going to happen. I didn't think that it was going to just completely, gay marriage was going to be legalized again. That's what most of my family said as well. They didn't think it was going to last very long.
I was actually just surprised that it lasted as long as it did. I thought that there was going to be a stay implemented much sooner than there was. So I was happy like each day that gay marriages were able to be performed. But I felt like it was inevitable that there was going to be a pause to that. So I wasn't surprised when it happened, but I was definitely disappointed, of course, and more than anything, sad for the couples that had already been married and kind of being placed in that limbo of, okay, well, what now?
When January 6th, when I heard that, it was like, boom, crash. What's going to happen now? Will this mean that, what will they do? Will they try to reverse our marriages?
At first, we expected a stay. We thought, we're okay, it's a stay and it'll pass. But then when they announced that basically our marriages wouldn't count, that's when it upset me.
In my head, I retained the sense of, we're married. That never changes. And yet, I thought, you felt extremely vulnerable, I did, that this could just be taken away.
Besides the fact of making the commitment of, our relationship, we did it for legal reasons. We want to be protected under the law and for health reasons, and to have that tie to each other and have that say over my spouse. And if we needed to go to the hospital or something urgent happened, or, to have that right that any heterosexual couple has. And for them to say it was invalid was just infuriating, and you're going to take that away from me. And we heard stories about many other couples, the same thing, people in worse health conditions that needed their partner's insurance, for medical reasons, just in a normal heterosexual relationship. And you're going to take that away. People that are dying of cancer and need treatment, and they cannot get on their spouse's insurance. And that was part of the limbo process of them halting everything and saying it was invalid. It's like, this can't be legal. You can't just take this away from us when we followed the law in filing for this. And when you said it was legal,
It felt personal. It felt like an attack. It felt scary, and it got me engaged in looking on equality on trial every day and reading all the comments and all of the musings of all the attorneys about what might happen, what could happen, and generally feeling buoyed up by that while still feeling like, I cannot believe that the state can give and the state can take away that simply.
On June 25, 2014, the appeals court upheld Judge Shelby's ruling, leaving it up to the Supreme Court to decide for the whole country, leaving the stay in place for Utah until a decision was made.
So thrilled to be here with you today. My name's Brandy Balkin, and I'm here representing Utah Unites for Marriage. And indeed, we are united for marriage. That's right. Today is an absolutely historic day. Not just for our state of Utah, but also for our nation. Today's decision has affirmed the fundamental principles of equality and fairness for same-sex couples and our families. Today's ruling was the 21st consecutive affirming decision holding up the freedom to marry. We are on a streak.
3 months later, on October 6th, the Supreme Court, in a surprise decision, denied to hear the appeals from 5 different states, with Utah's included. This lifted the stay and made Judge Shelby's initial ruling stand, allowing same-sex marriage in Utah to be performed once again.
I was flabbergasted. That meant that in a bunch of states now suddenly, marriage, there it was.
It was less of a shock than like back in December 2013, but it had a greater sense of closure. Like again, in December, it was more of complete bewilderment and then instant, like, but this is never gonna last sort of feeling. Whereas this time it was less surprising, but more comforting of, oh, okay, like now it's actually like final and it's gonna remain. So yeah, it was exciting for us personally, as well as just in general, happy for other people that, you know, marriage equality would be in Utah.
For us, we were getting ready to get married, that we could get married here in our home state. That was very exciting.
Like I said, I always call my mom the first thing I hear all that stuff. She loves that. But yeah, so I was heading to class and I called my mom and actually didn't go to class that day. I was going and then I came back. We went to the rally that had happened that night. I mean, there's not much more to say than it was the best feeling in the world. It's hard to describe.
It was, again, ecstatic. The same feeling of lightness as December 20th. And yet, well, really December 23rd when I was married. And yet, there was also the, why didn't they take this up and give it to the whole country so that nobody else has to be feeling or worrying about any of the issues that are involved in all the cases with sick people and sick partners and those kinds of things. So again, I felt ecstatic, but I was kind of disappointed that they were going to do it that way. Wait, let's wait till there's a break, there's a circuit split, and then we'll rule. So while there was a very selfish feeling of goody for me, and I'm so glad, I also just felt I want this to be decided for the whole country.
I felt like we had gone back and forth so many times. People, you know, something would be on the news and it's like, oh, are we good now? And then, oh, no. I almost wish they would have heard it because I wanted it to be completely final. I wanted them to say, this is it, and this is it for the whole country. This, you know, and so I guess when I heard it, I was excited, but there's still that little part of me. It's like, I don't know, what can they still do to us, you know?
We're still fighting for workplace rights for companies that aren't as diverse as others. We're still fighting for housing rights, not being kicked out just because you're gay, which I think that new legislature protects a little bit more, which is good. But that needs to be across the board of the whole United States. Too many people are still being affected by not having these laws in place.
I think there are still 28, after Utah, states without any protections for housing and employment. That's not good at all. We haven't been able to get an Employment Non-Discrimination Act through our Congress. That's terrible. Those are the basic needs people have to have in order to feel safe in their lives and able to thrive in any way. So that's really the next big movement.
There's a lot of protections that I think that the LGBT community really could use. Job security and housing, there's stuff, and that is the next step. The people that we're fighting for the marriage are actually doing that right now. It's awesome what they're doing. So there is a few things that I think could be done.
There's still obviously discrimination out there. There's still, you know, people can get fired for being gay, and in a sense, nobody blinks an eye at that. But really, like, it's not okay. And I think that, you know, passing laws eventually of, you know, equal housing, equal job opportunities, as far as not your sexuality not being a reason for discrimination, that's the next step that needs to happen. people shouldn't feel afraid to go into work and be themselves and have that fear of possibly being fired from their job just because the other person doesn't agree with their lifestyle or.
So until all the states are on board and until discrimination is gone completely, we have to keep fighting. We have to keep rallying and
Keep educating.
That it's not over.
It's a great giant leap forward in removing the stigma associated with we actually see you as criminal. We actually see you as other.
It takes away that fear of, we are getting older and what if something happened to one of us, and, what we've worked so hard, and, if something happened, the other one has no rights. So that fear is gone now. And it's hopefully it's a step towards no one ever having to fight this fight again and having to feel like that again, that they're second-class citizens.
It's a good step forward for Utah, especially because we were one of the first ones. That's really cool, very unexpected, but I'm still young. I'm not planning on getting married anytime soon anyway, so if I do, But yeah, it's just nice to know that I have that option now. Just know that my love is actually recognized by the state of Utah. Besides all of the law stuff, that's actually going to benefit us, it's just a really good feeling.
I feel like we can walk out of the house holding hands again. We may get harassed, but we're inside the law now. We can. I feel a little more free to be ourselves. I think the major thing is knowing if something happens to one of us, the other is going to be okay. As financially, anyway.
To finally call her my wife is pretty awesome. Took a while to get used to, but it feels complete. It feels our relationship is valid. Why shouldn't we get married? We're in a committed relationship. We don't go around town wearing a sign, we're gay. We go to work every day. We pay our taxes. We contribute to society.
I think there's so many stereotypes out there, and a lot of people just don't know or don't understand. I think nowadays it's more widely known. People know more LGBTQ people. They have a brother or sister or cousin or someone that they know is going through this, so it makes it a lot more personal. Whereas I feel some people that don't know anybody have certain preconceptions and stereotypes that they see in the media or just of what people say or what you hear. And so it's this misconception that makes them uncomfortable, and kind of that fear of the unknown. And I think once people get to know someone that's gay, or understand that we're still human beings, we still want the same things as everybody else does. We want a family, we want kids, we want what everybody else wants. And is that really such a bad thing?
I mean, honestly, I just want everyone to know that it's nothing weird. It's new, and that it's just love. It is.
I really want people to understand that there are as many ways of being human as there are people on the planet. So that could be around 7 billion ways. And I can't know anything about you just by knowing your sexual orientation or gender identity. That would be a terrible tragedy if I decided that I needed to focus on that as my primary way of knowing you, as opposed to there's so much I can understand. There's so much to gain and so much to know. If I can put that aside and just think, you are not any different from me. I need to do all the same work I would need to do to know you as I would need to know anybody. And the payoff will be as great in terms of understanding and intimacy and cooperation if we can just think, knowing your gender identity, your sexual orientation doesn't tell me anything I need to know about you as a human being.
I am big on being out. And I am, every year on coming out day, I'm posting on Facebook and offering to be there for anyone who wants to come out, just even to me, because until we all come out, the world is going to miss what great people are gay and lesbian.
It's really hard to convince people, especially when they're that young, feeling the same way that I did, that like it's gonna get better. I mean, there's all those projects like the It Gets Better project, but it really does. It's crazy how much my life has changed. I had a really good friend that kind of like helped me through everything, but my life has completely changed since I've came out. It's for the best. I've totally got all my confidence now. I didn't have a lot of confidence just because I felt like I was always lying to everyone. When I was a kid, I had to like fake like I liked girls until like 9th grade when I kind of gave up with that.
You know, if I could give one message to anybody growing up right now, that there is hope. I know everybody says this, but it really does get better. You know, my 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old self, if I could just go back and, you know, say, you know, everything's going to work out, everything's okay. Just to know that I'd be here today, knowing that everything was going to be okay. Everybody needs to know that. And I hate that that's kind of the norm sometimes now, that kids feel like they're stuck, that, you know, nobody's going to love them, but just get through it.
I know that there are a lot of kids out there right now, and even adults who are not out, and they'll probably never come out, especially the adults that they like have families and stuff. But there's a lot of people out there.
Every person that comes out is another person for a straight person to know and say, oh, I do know, you know, a homosexual who's a good person, or I do. So I'm big on people being out.
I never thought that I would find happiness. Like, I thought best case scenario, live celibately, still be connected to my family, but never really find that true happiness. And now that I've kind of stepped out of that and pursued happiness and been able to come out and be open about myself with everybody that I love, I mean, I never would have imagined my life now.
If I could tell someone that was in my shoes, if I could like go back and just tell myself, it'd be that everyone's still gonna love me no matter what. That it's not gonna be, I'm not gonna change myself. It's who I am, and that's what I'm gonna do, and that's what's best. I'll be a lot more happy if I could tell myself that.
You know, growing up, I never thought I'd be at this point. I had always dreamed of, you know, it being okay for me to find a guy I liked and fall in love.
I wish I could go back. I wish I knew when I was a kid how I feel now.
I live my life and be strong in who you are, and just reach out rather than take.
You're not alone.
I am so grateful that I am alive in this time to see this in my lifetime that I didn't think I would see. And by this, I don't just mean marriage. I mean a kind of liberation I didn't expect to ever happen. I hope that we will see our gigantic focus on difference giving way to a focus on understanding, acceptance. I don't mean tolerance, I mean acceptance and embrace of the differences that in the world, as a source of power, strength, diversity, and that we are right now missing out on because we're afraid and crazy.
Yeah.